Okay, here we go.
Test, 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 test.
Roll music?
Let's roll it.
Welcome to the Unknown Morning Show.
It's the show where we explore radio,
Podcasting,
TV,
gear,
gearheads,
and making money with a hot mic and other stuff too.
This is the Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandy Montana.
And I'm Chuck McKinley.
We are continuing our conversation with our good friend Rod Wayne. Rod has told us about early life, being in the Air Force, Dallas radio, coming to East Texas, returning to Dallas, and then deciding to come back to East Texas in KOOI, Sunny 106.5.
It was a little while after that I got a call from Sunny 106.5 from Shelley Miller, a friend there, telling me about our good friend Patty Foster, who was DJ locally. She'd been in a really bad car accident, and they didn't think she was going to make it. So I drove up, and just wasn't able to see her, unfortunately. And then Shelley said, "Oh, by the way, you know that your old position is open again." I said, "Really?" Because I was only gone about a year and a half. Not very long. And Jack Shell, whom I grew up listening to on KVIL in Dallas, which, by the way, Sunny, KOOI, was very much modeled after KVIL. Polished. I mean, they ran a smooth ship. It was good. Dave and Dudley made that place big. And I was just honored to be a part of it. And I said, "Jack Shell left." "Wow." She said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, tell Dave I'm coming back if he'll have me." And Dave called me back. He said, "I'm looking at this Post-it note on my desk. Is this true? You want to come back?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let me go ask Dudley." So he goes and talks to Dudley. 5 minutes later, Dudley said, "Get your butt back here, boys." Load it up. Dudley put me up in a hotel for a while until I could find a place to live. But yeah, I came on back. And it was great. Got to work with Dave Moreland. At that time, Janie Baker was our middays.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet lady. Amazing voice. She could have been in a big, big market. And then, of course, we had Chris Burton was doing our evening show, and the request, that's one of the biggest, best parts of live radio is just talking to the listeners. And so when you ask me later why I'm not in radio, that will be part of my answer. And then, and then Chris left us, and then we got Delilah.
Yeah.
Who, it's so funny. At first, I didn't care for Delilah, but I really enjoy that show. In fact, Christmas time, I still have to tune into Delilah for her Christmas program because I'm just used to having that in the background. I still listen to old Sunny stuff that I've recorded, and I'll play it in the background around Christmas time because it just makes me comfortable for the good times. But yeah, had great leadership. I mean, Dave was the morning personality and program director, and he ran a tight ship. And we're still friends to this day. In fact, Chuck, I think we get together for Dave's birthday every year, don't we?
That's right.
It's a big celebratory moment.
I always thought it was so fascinating about Dave is, he always ruled. And it was something as a guy who eventually became a program director. What I thought was very cool about Dave is he got his point across, and he did it in such a way that wasn't threatening or awful. It was matter of fact. We need to do this. And it was like, oh, okay, I understand.
And you believed him, and you trusted him, and you had faith in him, and you wanted to make him happy. So it's yes, sir. You just do it.
Sure, absolutely.
He was probably one of the best bosses, and definitely one of the best PDs I've ever had. But here's one of the greatest lessons Dave taught me. I had gone into the studio. He was on the air, and I was grabbing some CDs for something, and my back's to him. Did not see that he hit the on air to go on the air, and he's talking. And I think he's talking to me. So I'm responding, and I'm turning around, and he's just like looking at me eyes wide like I'm on the mic. I'm talking. I'm on the air. I'm like, embarrassed. I thought he was talking to me. Dave is one of those people that has that ability. When he's talking on the air, he's just talking to you. He's not being big announcer, which I was always so guilty of. I was like, I have got to master that. So when you open the mic, and Dave said, "Look, you're just talking to one person. Pick that person. That's it." And then everybody else thinks you're talking to them. That is a gift, and I've worked for years to try and be more like that.
It's hard to do that.
It's
hard to get that thing out of your system. Well, or let's put it this way, to where you don't imitate a person, to where whatever influence you have on whatever big market DJ, you decide, I'm going to be me. Yeah. And I have to be
That's
me.
hard. That is hard. It's funny. The advice your parents give you, they plant the seed, but it doesn't really, bloom until years later, or you don't get it. So one of the other pieces of advice my dad gave me, he said, "Son, just always be yourself. Just be yourself. People will love you for you." But I could never be myself. I didn't know what that was. I didn't have you wouldn't know it, but I didn't really have high self-esteem. You would think, as outgoing as I was and how I never shut up, I must have very high self-esteem. I definitely believed in myself a lot, but I didn't. It was covering up the fact that I had low self-esteem, And so I wanted to be anybody but me. So, I wanted to be John Wayne. I wanted to be James Bond. I wanted to be Captain Kirk. Those are my heroes. I wanted to be these cool old dudes. Well, now I'm finally reaching that age. I'm like, well, maybe that's not so great. Maybe I need to look at some younger people. Like NSYNC. No. What is inside joke? Inside joke. With Mandy.
Or you are a cool old dude.
They're old now, though.
We are cool old dudes.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all older than we?
If you live long enough, you will be. But just being yourself, and that was so funny. The funny thing about Dave was he sounds the same on the air as off the air, and he even uses his real name. Me did not quite use my full real name, and definitely sounded different on the air. And I used to get insulted when people say, "Oh, you sound so different on the air." No, I don't. Well, yes, I do, because that microphone came on. I was on stage, and I went into that, Rod Wayne performer mode. And that was the hardest thing for me to learn, that just be yourself. You don't have to sound like Rick Dees or any of these other people. Just be you.
I always thought the biggest compliment you could get from somebody encountering you is when they would recognize you and say, you sound exactly like you do on the air. We would be at a restaurant, and Rosie would lean over my wife, and she would say, they recognize your voice. And I go, I'm asking for extra cheese on my burger, hon. Just please. And I would get, but of course it didn't help. There was, for years when I was at KTBB, especially doing production, we would have a family gathering. I'd walk in the door with my wife. My brother-in-law, Jack, would be there, and he would holler, "Hey, there's Mr. KTBB." And I'm going, Jack. And then when I went to another job, when I was, went to work with you over at with Eric Jantra, I kiddingly said to Jack, I says, "Now you don't have to say that anymore. You can change." Clear marketing concepts doesn't roll off the tongue very, very well.
Every time Patty Foster and I would go out and eat, she was like, "Do you know who this is?" I'm like, "Stop it.
Oh.
Stop it. They don't know. They don't care." Look, I'm like, if they're under 30, they don't know. If they didn't listen to or I'd get, they'd find out who I am and go, "Oh, yeah, I think my parents listen to you."
Thank you.
And I'll never forget the first time a young man came up to me. He was in his 20s. He said, "Oh, you're Rod Wayne from Sunny 106.5. I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, I listened to you when I was a kid," or something like that. I'm like, "Oh, wow, you're getting old."
Yeah.
But you'd go to Brookshire sometimes and people would look at you funny. They'd say, "I know I don't know you, but I know your voice." And you'd tell them, go, "Oh, yeah, that's all we listen to. Yeah, Sonny, that's cool. That's neat." But we were talking, and I was going to allude to this, so I'm glad you brought that up, Chuck, is when you leave radio, you kind of lose your identity. Because for years, I was Rod Wayne from Sunny 106.5, or, Rod Wayne from Mix, when I was there for a short time, or whatever station you're on. Then suddenly, when you're not on the air, "Oh, I'm Rod Wayne who used to be on."
But listeners, they don't forget.
They don't.
Never.
No, we still have listeners from the olden days. Dave Moreland still has so many listeners from Sunny 106.5 that are still in touch with him every year.
Sure.
Some of the most amazing listeners, too. Just good people. We had a family at Sunny. I've got to say that was probably one of the best experiences in radio where it was done right. And the listeners came first, and it was quality. We had quality people working. We had quality listeners. And we had a quality product. You just can't get better than that.
It is always great to be in a professional situation like that where you have one mindset, but not in a forced way. Like you said, family. When Mandy and I were together at KKUS, all the pieces were in place. We all knew what we needed to do to get a job done, whether it was a daily basis, a quarterly basis, and it's like, you would do promotions for me, the website, I did music. And when we had long-term promotion things that would, land on the day of, Don Jones and Tom Perryman would do a lot of the upfront work as far as, announcing and stuff. And we would be pulling the levers and back, making sure everything would run smooth. But that's always a wonderful feeling when that works.
One of the hardest things was when Waller chose to sell Sunny and some other stations, and they sold it. Was it
Access One?
Access One. Thank you. Out of New York at the time.
They're Alpha now, but
and it was so hard trying to make that decision. And I'll never forget. It was like the day before, And I've got people from Access One pulling at me. I've got Dudley pulling at me. I was on the air. It was like the last day we were actually owned by Waller. He came and he goes, well, have you made up your mind? Are you going with them or staying with us? And I guess just being young, I said, fine, I'm going with them. And the thing is, I wanted to stay on Sunny, which was the big stick. I wanted that afternoon
Sure.
slot, and I knew I'd miss everybody, but, and that was a divorce. I mean, that was like going through a divorce, selling that station, because we spent some time in the old Jacksonville, building, and it was not comfortable. And so finally we had to move over to Chase Drive, just 2 buildings down from where we are right now. It's
Isn't
crazy.
it wild?
And that's where we met, because that was 2005.
Yeah.
And that's when we were all kind of crunched into that little building, and you had the ranch on one side, you had Sunny there.
The production room was a closet.
Yeah,
Oh, literally. No, literally.
It literally
a
was.
closet.
It literally was. And where do we put La Invasora at the time? The other closet? They were
Maybe.
Yeah.
It was small.
It was
In the
small.
back, I
In the
think.
very back, yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Because Sonny had the front living room studio.
Yeah.
We did, yeah. A big fish bowl, because the windows around it. But that was crazy, and that's where I really got to know Mandy and Chuck and Amy Austin.
Yeah.
And just that was and Tom. That was the best part of it, was just hanging out with you guys and getting to know you, because you guys were so warm, because we were a family, but it was the Brady Bunch. We were kind of a married family.
And I'd come over from Longview.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was the stepsister.
Those were
transferred.
good times. But getting to know Tom Perriman was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, because Tom knew everyone and was well respected. And one day I was sitting there. One of the young ladies had to rush out and get some lunch. I'm like, I'll cover the phones, because that's what we did. And I got a telephone call, and I answered. And he goes, is Tom Perriman there? I said, I'm sorry, he is not. Can I take a message? Because, Tom didn't do voicemail. And he said, well, yeah. He goes, son, you probably don't know who I am. My name is Jim Ed Brown. I'm like, sir, let me stop you right there. Yes, I do know who you are. The Browns. And, The Old Lamplighter is one of my favorite old songs. And now I'm discovering more Brown songs because of him. Nicest guy in the world. And I thought, well, if Tom hadn't worked there, I never would have had a chance to talk to Jim Ed Brown over the phone.
Or Ray Price.
Or
Used
Ray
to stop
Price.
by the
Used to
studio
come by
all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For the good times, to quote Ray Price. But yeah, good times, good memories. And then we finally got our old studio, or our big studios down on South Broadway. So that was spread out more, and that was great. And I remember just when the days were tough, I'd go sit in your office, Chuck, with you and Mandy. We would just talk.
Yeah.
And that was just good.
The big
times.
office was great.
And then when the weather was bad, Mom would come in with some fried chicken and the dog Trixie, and we'd just hunker down.
And that came up the other night, because Rosanna had said, because we were going to have bad weather. And I said, well, maybe a fried chicken night. She goes, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget that, because my great-nephew Matthew was maybe 8 months, and his mom, my niece Sarah, and so it was Sarah. Her little baby was going to be born, Rosanna, my mother-in-law, the dog. And then, of course, it's bad weather. What does Rosanna say? Let's drive through and get some chicken.
Mm-hmm. And how old is Matthew now?
Matthew will be 17 in
So that was
in a month.
17 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
That's crazy. They grow up, don't they?
Yeah.
So long ago. But we made a lot of good memories there. We had some really good times. And I guess it was about 2007. So I guess I survived about 2 years there. Dave was no longer with us. We still had Delilah, and people still thought she was in the studio with me because we made it sound that way. Of course, Amy Austin and Charlie O took over the morning show. Bless their hearts, because they gave it everything they had, and they did such a wonderful job. But I still think the mistake that we made was, not only did we change DJs, we changed format. We went a little bit brighter, which was a huge mistake to do that at the same time. That's just my opinion. In hindsight, at the time, I was excited because I was younger and wanted more upbeat music, not realizing that was going to be the kiss of death.
Sure, because the lesson is, don't change if it's successful. One of my old radio station, KKUS, imported when Big D and Bubba left KNUE, I guess 2 years ago. They picked it up for their morning show, which kind of, you're scratching your head. It's a top 40 country show. It's syndicated, and it's going to be on a classic country station. And their ratings since then used to be 4 or 5s. When Mandy and I were working together, about every third book
We had a 6-9.
Yeah.
6-9, absolutely. We would get into a 6 share, and it'd always be 18 to 34-year-old males would have a hot book, and it would help us. But they've been about a 3.2, 3.5, and it's because of that. Because the basic rule of programming is that whatever you tell your listeners, you better deliver. If you don't, it's going to drive them away.
So a good dear friend of mine who's recently passed, she always had the ranch on in the background.
Sure.
And it soothed her cats, and she liked classic country, which I didn't. So it really got me listening to the ranch more. I quit listening to terrestrial radio, period, years ago. I would rather have my own playlist because, I got to be music director at Sunny. So I'm like, I know how to put playlists together and hear what I want. As a person who was a DJ, and that was my living, and as a person who now writes, produces, and voices commercials, I didn't want to hear DJs. I didn't want to hear commercials. But I guess it's kind of like a doctor that doesn't like sick people. I don't know. But so anyway, but I started listening to Ranch, and I forgot how much I missed it. And then it was great in the afternoons because I heard Charlie O. Because it's always good to hear Charlie's voice. He does so much production for them. And I think he's running most of the production and other stuff for that group now, which is, I'm glad he's still there.
And I think I know that when Charlie O did mornings, I liked him a lot doing mornings on the
he was fun. Well, and as I was saying earlier with Amy, Austin, and Charlie O, bless their hearts, it was not their fault that they were trying to pick up the new Sunny. And I think somebody once said, there's nothing that Charlie's doing wrong. He's not Dave, and that's the issue.
Exactly.
Well, and I think they had some bad advice from some consultants out of town that didn't really know the market.
Mandy, a consultant has never given bad advice. I refuse to believe.
Oh, goodness. There are some good ones. There are some great consultants out there.
Cal Casey, you're one of them if you're still with
But
us.
I tell you, that was, and I was on the sidelines at the ranch observing what was going on over there with Sunny. And I remember some of the conversations that I had with you, with Amy, with Charlie O, after the consultants would leave town, and y'all would tell me what the direction was. And I was going, have they been in East Texas for more than 5 minutes? Because I'm pretty sure that ain't going to fly.
Don't change it.
But anyway.
It's always amazing when that happens, though.
I think people forget that it's a people business. Radio is a people business, and people are creatures of habit. And I had a program director who shall remain nameless, but he always wanted to come in and change things and bust it up and make it fresh. And I think that was his, I think that was to his detriment and to the station's detriment because people especially who they wake up with in the morning, they get into routines, and that routine is familiar, and it's how they operate. Like when Dave was no longer on Sunny playing the national anthem at 5 a.m. in the morning, that's how some people started their day.
Absolutely.
That was their wake up call. And when suddenly that's not there, it leaves a massive hole in their world.
To this day, and it happened the other day at the radio station, we were, the afternoon news guy was talking about a story in which these crooks in Palestine, these two kids held up a pizza joint for pizza and wings, no money, and he was laughing about it. And I immediately said, "Oh yeah, dumb criminals." A good friend of mine would make,
bozo criminals. That was a Dave Moreland thing, which he will tell you any good bit on radio was stolen from another radio station. You steal the good ones, but bozo criminal was great.
Oh yeah,
great.
I think he had a website too.
I think he did.
For a while he had a website for that.
Dave was remarkable. I loved working for you, Chuck, but I also really had a great opportunity in working for both you and Dave at the same time for a short period of time. And I really felt so well mentored because I got to learn from you and your experiences and your direction. And then Dave had a different experiences and a different type of mentoring. But man, I really felt so blessed during that time to get to learn from both of you, and then to learn from Rod too, and Amy. Having another female in the building was huge. It's
bounce ideas off.
Well, there's only one in a radio group or in a radio station. So to have her and her wisdom and her care and her guidance was just invaluable to me.
To share her experiences.
Yes.
And I don't know if the history is correct, but I think I think Amy has probably been the only working day in, day out program director of the market scene.
Female?
Female.
I was never given the title, but I did the work.
Definitely acting PD. You did do the work, yes.
But I was told that I wouldn't be given the title. I was doing public service announcements for all 4 stations. I was the acting PD and responsible for the transmitter, which was 100,000 watts, and the main EAS signal. But I was never given the title.
So you were doing FCC stuff, right?
But I was never given the title.
That's op stuff.
From the same gentleman who also wanted to blow up the station every 6 months.
You mentioned that. I think what's so strange about that, you can still sit there and freshen up your sound, but you do it subtly. It's like on KKUS, I would break out on paper the music database twice a year, and I would look at everything, spin counts and everything, and go, okay, what are we going to do here? Do we need to do anything? And, I would always use the example on a classic country station, Coal Miner's Daughter, Loretta Lynn will always play in some form. Maybe I'd go, okay, spin counts up, let me pull it back a little. And also knowing that during the course of our day at the ranch, we had 2 request hours. And I had a little bit of freedom in the afternoon when I could spike stuff. So it was like, okay, things are going to play. So it was always, what was the overall tone going to be? As far as, when Tom and I, when I first became program director, Tom Perriman and I had terrific arguments on music because he was firmly in the 50s and 60s. And I would tell him, Tom, we want to play Hank Sr., but we want to play Hank Jr., we want to play Clint Black, we want to play Reba, we want to get as many butts in the seats as possible. And I said, we just can't do that by playing all 50s and 60s. And I said, plus, it makes your show less special. We want to keep your show as special and exclusive as possible, but we also want to spread things out and make sure that we have listenership, with the rest of us. That's what, I said that's why, because when I became program director, part of the day was Westwood 1 at night, and the rest during the day was a little bit older. And Westwood 1 was newer, and I was like, no, we just need to even this stuff out. So anyway, the point that I was trying to make while I got diarrhea of the mouth is that you can sit there and gently blow things up and still keep your listenership.
But that's one of the reasons, Chuck, why you were such a great PD. You know how to talk to people and approach things. I think your approach with Tom was wonderful. That's what makes your show special. You knew how to talk to people so that they would listen. And that's true. And the ranch always sounded great. I still love the old music.
Well, and the thing that I liked about it, too, is the imaging was terrific. It wasn't, I hate when it comes to country stations, or in this case, a classic country station, where it consists of, having hillbilly corn pone type of imaging. I like straightforward stuff, and for us, it was, classic country.
C.C. McCartney.
Yeah, C.C. McCartney was terrific.
So good.
Houston radio, the old Kilt, I guess, and he was a legend in Houston. But yeah, that's one of the things that I wanted to have it to where I've told a few people I thought KKUS was alternative music for old folks, and that's how I looked at it.
Yeah, I get that. But a lot of younger people like the classic country too, and I think they need to hear that. If you like country, you need to hear the roots where it came from.
Yeah.
I think,
and I wanted to have it to where the music, like if you had a 6 or 7 song music sweep, you were hitting everything from the 50s into the early 90s. Well, late 80s, early 90s. I felt the bass overall would be 80s, and then you kind of spread things out from there to make it work.
Yeah. One thing I keep hearing us hit on that we miss in radio, it was the people, because they were the most important thing. They were the listeners. They're the ones that gave us, the points that we needed for the books. They were the ones that supported us. And for years, I loved radio because, especially on the Smooth Drive at 5, that was a Dave thing.
I loved the Smooth Drive at 5.
It was so funny because
I loved it so much.
The morning show had all these things, these things going on, contests and things. Of course, we did the Case's Secret Word, then just became the Secret Word when it was no longer sponsored. And then Dave had the fun stuff, and there's sometimes we had some stuff in the middays. I want something. He said, okay, let me think about it. He said, all right, you're going to be the Smooth Drive at 5. Oh, I love it. That sounds good. What am I doing? What am I giving away? He's like, nothing. It's just going to call the Smooth Drive at 5. Like, oh, okay.
And we can sponsor it.
Exactly.
We can sell it.
Somebody did sales. Yeah.
Did you finally have something to give away, though?
Well, we did. Well, we always did the secret word. So every day about 4:30, I would give away the secret word. I'd give the word to be a descriptive word. I use it in a sentence, and
How did you deliver it, Rod? Come on.
Well, I'm trying to remember.
The secret word is.
Well, it was. I had an intro music. Whatever the intro music was. I've still got that recorded somewhere.
Like right. Jeopardy type stuff.
I don't remember what I used.
I don't remember either.
But I'd say it's time for the Case's Secret Word, or the Secret Word at 4:30. Brought to you by whoever at the time, and it said the secret word for tomorrow morning is jovial. Jovial, Jovial, jovial. Like, I'm always in a jovial mood when I hang out with Mandy and Chuck.
Yes.
Now, listen for Dave Moreland to use that word sometime tomorrow morning. And when you do, be the fifth caller, because they also had to have a number. It was a different number and a different word. So be caller number 5. If you're the fifth caller, when you hear Dave Moreland say jovial, you'll win whatever, dinner for 2 to whatever. And so I remember I was giving Dave some tough words. He finally walked in one day and goes, we have to talk about these words. So look, I can't use parabola in a sentence, or whatever crazy word. We need more descriptive, easy words I can work in. I said, okay. So, but I had this book, which I still have. I'd use that word and mark it, or people would call in with a word.
Get out of here.
Oh, it was great. They'd say, I got a secret word for you. I said, terrific, let's work. And one time I had my mom on the air. And so the secret word that day was going to be, I'm trying to think, it'll come to me in a second. But it was basically, when you have a young upstart.
Apprentice?
No, you get a young person, they kind of get a little attitude or something. And I cannot remember the word.
Not whippersnapper.
No, it's not whippersnapper. I can't believe that I've totally forgotten that word.
Not novice.
But I had isn't that terrible?
Amateur.
Yeah, but it wasn't amateur. It was
fired.
That should have been the secret word a few times.
The whippersnapper got fired today.
No, he's very. Oh, I can't.
Ronald Reagan imitation.
Well, no, because I got called that quite a bit growing up. That's why I thought, okay, I'm going to have my mom use that word.
That's cute.
It'll come to me in a minute.
Was it the only time your mom was on your show?
Yeah, that was the only time. We were talking about something. Say, hey, Mom, here's a great word for the day. I think it'd be funny if you delivered it. It's just comedy gold.
Cool.
And so I said, okay, Mom, here's the word, and then you spell it and tell them what caller number, and then use it in a sentence. So she said, yeah. She said, okay, here's the secret word for the day. It is whatever that word was that I can't remember right now. And I'll remember on the next podcast, folks. I'll phone it in. And she said, be call number 7, and I'll use it in a sentence. When Rod was growing up, he was all right, thanks a lot, Mom. I appreciate it. That's good. Stop right there. And it was funny. And so we had fun. But the best part was the interaction with the listeners. So I guess between 2005 and 2007 with the new format of Sunny, we got to really heavy on the voice tracking. So they wanted to voice track the shows and have us do other work in the background, which I didn't mind the extra work, but I really missed just being live on the air. In fact, when I was there in the studio, I would go ahead and voice track my show, but the Smooth Drive at 5, I would do it live.
Okay.
So I could have the interaction. For some reason, about 2007, the fun just drained out of radio for me. It was... I don't know. It was more of a corporate thing, less of a fun radio thing, less of a family thing. I wasn't able to take calls. I'd get complaints from people. I've been calling all day. I can't get through. I'm like, well, that's because I'm not really in the studio. I'm voice tracking ahead. I'm like, if I'm here, I might as well do it live.
Yeah.
So that got a little old. And then, of course, changes in corporate structure and ownership and management. And I'm one of those people, if I'm not having fun, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. So I went to work in nonprofit because I absolutely loved it. And I got to work with the Camp Tyler Foundation because I love Camp Tyler. So did that, and then left there and went over to PATH, People Attempting to Help. And I was a director of volunteer services, a volunteer coordinator, and I loved it because I felt like I was making a difference. But again, you take that gift of gab because I'm trying to talk people into volunteering. I'm trying to talk you into working for free.
Yes.
But, for a good cause, and I absolutely loved it. Well, it wasn't. I guess I was at PATH about a year or so, and then the people that were kind of running management at Sunny, and that came approaching. They wanted me to come back. I said, no, I'm not leaving nonprofit. I love PATH, but I'll voice track my shows. So I did. So I went back on Sunny, but I was voice tracked. I wasn't even there live.
I was so thankful for you.
Oh,
I was doing middays at the time.
And it was so good coming in and seeing you those days.
No.
But and on occasion I'd go in and do that. And then one of the guys there said, hey, who was calling the shots, he said, why don't you take back over your Smooth Jazz Sunday brunch? Because years ago I had started doing, because Rick Guest did sales. He was our GM at the time. Rick Guest did sales at the Oasis, Smooth Jazz in Dallas, and I was on the air. He said, do the Smooth Jazz Sunday brunch here. So Sunday mornings, we didn't have a big listenership, but some people that liked it. There was nothing else going on. So I'd go in and do the Smooth Jazz Sunday brunch. And then I came back, he said, will you take that over and do that again? So I did. I guess I was back on the air at Sunny and doing the Smooth Jazz show maybe about 2 years.
I think so, yeah.
About 2 years. And
it was
again,
great.
Management kept changing. And I think ownership changed. And it was too hard to do that and everything else. And I just finally said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. And I don't know, it just wasn't the same. And then I went to work for Mix for about a year on the air. And that was different because for years...
You sounded great, though, on Mix.
Yeah.
I never felt like I fit in over there. Although I love the people like Lucky Larry and Jeff Evans and everyone.
You sounded terrific, though.
Thank you. Just stick to the cue cards I gave you, Jeff. Read it as I wrote it.
You sounded. I am.
I think it's fun. We all work together downtown in the East Texas Radio Group, now Alpha
Right.
offices, and then at different times, all three of us worked across the parking lot from
True.
where we are now
Absolutely.
at the Town Square Media. What was it before? What do they call? I mean, it was Gap. It was Clear Channel. It was
Clear Channel, yeah.
Broadcasted Unlimited with Don Chaney. So I was there from 84 to 87, and then I came back in 90, I guess in 90. I was gone a while.
Yep. And then you were there before I was, because I came around, I think maybe about a year after you had left
I think
Mix.
2011, 2012. I left in 2012, I think.
Yeah. And I got there in 2013 that summer and was there for 6 years.
And that was cool. But again, got to work with Amy Austin over there.
Yeah.
So I knew Amy, and that was just
Amy
that
was
so
my
much
boss
fun.
for 7 years. It was great.
Just
We
worked
had
with
some
great people.
great times.
And I got to give kudos to Carlene Dark, who
Yes.
was just absolutely incredible over there. Got to work with her, and and Gunny Moore did sales, and you talk about the real deal. He is a Marine through and through. I'd had a really bad accident, nearly lost my leg, and so I was off work for a while and came back in. And I had a hard time getting around, and he got me a wheelchair from somewhere.
Wow.
And so I could get around the building. That was so hard. And then
That's sweet.
when we had to do that big remote, it was like the Women's Night Out or whatever. And we had, was it Derek Huff come out? I could not walk around all day on crutches or a walker or push around a wheelchair and do my job, because that time I was also helping with sales doing promotions. And so he went over and with, I think, Access to Mobility, worked out a deal and got me a little scooter, which is great. The only problem is we should have taken a break and charged it because it died in the middle of the event. So I was telling people, okay, go over here and y'all do that. I'll be over here by the Jersey Mike subs, keeping them warm. It was funny. But I mean, yeah, just people there were just so kind, and they looked out for you. And that was a neat feeling.
It's time to wrap this segment of our interview with Rod Wayne. In the upcoming segment of the Unknown Morning Show, Rod leaves radio, but he doesn't put his mics on Craigslist.
This has been another episode of the Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandy Montana.
And I'm Chuck McKinley.
This is our show to explore radio,
Podcasting.
gear,
And the gearheads that use the gear.
and making money with a hot mic.
And other stuff in between.
We'd love for you to follow us on social media as well. Follow us on Facebook at The Unknown Morning Show and Instagram at The Unknown Morning Show. See us on YouTube at The Unknown Morning Show.
Thank you for listening to the Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandy Montana.
I'm Chuck McKinley. And remember, be kind and rewind.